So welcome, Anna Schneider from the Tool Library. Maybe you'd like to give us a bit of an overview of what you guys are actually attempting to do.
Yeah, of course. So the Brisbane Tool Library is a library of things. It works exactly like a book library, but instead of books, we have hand tools, power tools, camping gear, sports equipment, and more. And our inventory is continuously growing. It works based on a membership model, so people buy their memberships and then they get access to everything that we have in the library, as well as we provide the storage of the tools and the maintenance of those tools. And we're working on providing workshops that build skill sets as well as knowledge around the sharing economy. So our overall vision is to help people move towards a circular sharing economy while solving practical needs within our community.
Cool. How long has it been in its development?
It's been in its development for about 10 months now. We started collecting tools and the idea started growing last April. We became an incorporated association in October. Since then, we have actually gotten our first physical location. Our inventory is at about 300 or so tools at the moment. We've started selling memberships, and we've had our first active members.
Cool, fantastic. So when you think about the development of what you've been doing so far, in terms of your social capital, do you think you know who you need to know, or are there other people that you need to be bringing in to help move this thing forward?
I think we know who we need to know to get where we are, to get that initial one library set up to start bringing in users and generate members. But I think to expand and grow, we kind of lack a little bit of social capital with some of our key market segments.
Yeah.
You know, like non-for-profits that can give us access to people. We don't have many contacts within there. Another big set of users that we're looking towards is like apartment dwellers, young professionals that are moving, downsizing, don't have much time for storage, don't want to own a lot of things, but we have no way to really reach that market or even target that market. So we are missing a bit of social capital, but we do have a pretty big following on social media, community presence within. We're located in South Brisbane. You know, we're contacted with like the counselors, so we do, it's a mix. But I think to move forward, we're lacking a bit of our social capital.
Yeah, cool. And what about human capital? Is there some sort of knowledge areas that you're sort of wanting to sort of develop more?
Yeah, so we do have our core management committee. We have a bit of the environmentalist, economist, myself with nonprofit business, and a couple other business people. We're lacking a bit the tech side of things because we developed a model that doesn't have a lot of technology involved.
Yep.
If we develop in that way, we're lacking that human capital. Also, our marketing and advertising, you know, digital marketing especially, is lacking as well.
Yeah, cool. What about resources in general? Are there some, when we talk of financial capital, we don't just limit it to sort of cash on hand. We try to think about the resources that we would actually, in a perfect world, be able to access to move things forward. Are there some resources out there that you like to be able to gain more access to?
Of course, a bit more financial capital would be great. The other resources that we're looking to build is actually, we want to expand, but space is difficult. You know, commercial space is expensive. So looking how we can expand without needing huge capital to do that would be great. Some other resources that we really need, I guess, we have a bit of like the human, but from a financial point, the members, creating that value, getting people involved. Like they bring, of course they bring the money through their membership, but they also expand the knowledge or people hearing about the tool library and that kind of stuff. So we're a bit low mostly on financial capital. We have, as I mentioned, our large inventory. So that those assets are capital in themselves, and that's actually probably one of our smallest problems at the moment. We have a large influx of inventory, but it's the other type of capital that we're looking for.
When you sent me the email to tell me about this idea, and I looked in your signature in your email, it was the word library that stood out to me. And I thought, given your interest in education and those types of things, I thought, you're working at the library, right? And then eventually I said the word tool, right? So the students will be thinking in terms of cognitive legitimacy. You know, does everyone understand what a tool library is? So to what extent do you think, you know, that sort of taken for granted aspect is already around things like a tool library?
So I guess a lot of people haven't heard of a tool library before, but as soon as you say, oh, it's a tool library, like a book library, everybody gets it, and it, you know, we are present at a lot of markets, festivals, things like that to help our marketing, and as soon as you explain it, people are like, wow, I could really use something like that, you know, even just little things. People are like, oh, I wanted to hang up a picture the other day and I didn't have anything that I needed. Or a lady the other night, I have a table I want to I bought this table as a DIY project and I realized I have no tools to fix it up. So as soon as you get the idea, you know, you mentioned compare it to a book library, and it's pretty common that people really do.
That's actually quite interesting, because a colleague of mine, he always talks about, you know, why do people buy drills? You know, and the answer is, that his answer is because they need a hole, right? Yeah. So that's interesting from your marketing perspective. It's sort of, maybe it's not the tools, but it's the jobs the tools do.
Yeah, it's
you want to be connecting to people around.
That's one of our marketing. You know, people. We have a slogan where like, people don't need a drill; they need a hole in the wall. Yeah. And it's interesting because a lot of drill. We found out the average drill in its lifetime is only used for 12 to 14 minutes before it's thrown off to landfill. Yeah. So it's, you don't actually need that tool. You need what the tool does for you.
And what about socio-political legitimacy? So in terms of stakeholders broadly in society, are there likely to be any stakeholders that are against what you're trying to do?
The stakeholders, obviously, you know, that we've spoken to support what we do, but our concern is big tool companies. You know, your Bunnings, things like that may see the idea of these tool libraries as actually reducing their market and their customers. But outside of that, because of what we're aiming to do, there's the two parts of it, the environmental part, so you have that social, it's that trend right now. Everybody wants to be more environmentally friendly, to use resources better. It's a growing social trend. And then trying to give access to people that need these things. And there's that entire, you know, like the nonprofit side, the access to people like refugees, people setting up new homes that have been through a disaster, natural disaster, something like that.
Yeah, sure. In terms of entering this space, being the first tool library, maybe in Australia?
Not in, we were the first tool library to register in Queensland. There is one down in the Blue Mountains. Okay. And I think there's a Brunswick one that's trying to start up. We kind of, I don't know how official those ones are. I'm not sure if they're incorporated associations yet, but and then there's one other in the Brisbane area that started up not long after us, but it's at most like 4 or 5 of us so it's a very small niche market.
You mentioned to me that there was one in Canada and there was one in Seattle, North America. So in terms of understanding how such ideas come into a space and can succeed, do you feel you've got a good handle on the type of variations that relate to this, the things that select for or against them, sort of things that just get retained, people's behaviours or ways of using tools?
So we have had a lot of talks with the Seattle and Toronto tool libraries. We have a bit of a good idea how the basic model of a tool library in a physical location works, where people come, browse, use tools. We've talked to them a bit about how it's a lot of word of mouth. They like it. It seems to be smaller libraries in more locations, kind of like your local book libraries. People aren't going to drive 45 minutes to borrow a lawnmower, pick it up, take it home. Like, that's not really realistic. So we understand that it's not that we need one large library. We do need that kind of smaller ecosystem with spread out libraries that give easy access. Yep. As far as development of the idea and the model, I guess that's kind of what we're working on now. Yep. So we can see how this specific library model works, but there's kind of ways that we want to work on how we can adapt the idea to fit the needs of people and the wants of our market.
So we talk about this idea that everything has its own unique environment, and it's not just Brisbane's environment that we're thinking of. So specifically in relation to your tool library, are there any particular environmental factors that you would sort of see working against your idea, which we would call the selective environment?
Environmental factors working against our idea. I think the biggest, out of our model, the biggest environmental factor working against us is just location, and that's probably our biggest thing right now. Is we were even present at a festival in Ipswich, and so many people came through and they were like, we love your idea, we love what you're doing, you're too far away. We're never going to use you. And that
so density is a good thing, but it's also a negative thing because obviously it suggests you've got the ease of travel as an country town. What about the flip side of it, what we call the ecological environment? Are there some things that are really positive that you're able to sort of tap in and take advantage of in the environment?
Some of the positive things we're really able to tap into, you have the people that kind of agree with our core values, that see the value in reducing not only just waste, but consumption, not getting people to buy more things. And there's those people that are buying into the idea of like the minimalists, that whole side of things, but there's also people that have the really practical needs. The fact that we're solving practical solutions is a positive thing within our environment, and the social trends, I think, are really to our favor as well.
Yeah, cool. So we talk about this idea of being able to create and ultimately capture value. So we can think of value being created through a value chain where we take the ingredients, so to speak, and we do something with them to produce a better output, or we've got the way we use resources in a value shop where we use resources in multiple different ways to solve people's problems, or we have value networks where we are actually trying to tap into a community. So where would you guys see your ability to create value and capture value?
I think it's a mix of the value shop and value community with the networks. So, different market segments, there's the tradies and smaller people in that trades area that find a lot of value that we can create, making it easier to start up your business. A lot of businesses, smaller, medium-sized business, maybe don't have that capital to buy all the tools you need to do work. So we're creating value to create jobs and help that side of things. With students, there's that network of students where they can get access to a lot of things that they might need, even just for adventures, fun with their friends, that creates real value and experience for them. But then also the shop side of things, running workshops, teaching people how to use tools. So bringing in, a large inventory of tools, and people that come in and know how to use it for one thing can learn different ways and different ways to use those resources to create value in their own homes, work, lives, families, whatever they want to learn.
Very cool. In terms of your interaction with the community in general, we talk about this notion of coactions. So trying to sort of, where it's possible to set yourself up so that when you win, other people win. And in a perfect world, no one loses. It's quite a hard outcome to achieve. Is that something that you guys are mindful of in terms of trying to have this sort of sustainable approach where, the more you succeed, the more other things succeed around you?
Absolutely. That's actually our core value. Like myself, coming from a nonprofit business background, I'm very socially conscious of the impact of our actions. And the founder, Sabrina, she's an environmental economist. And so we're very aware of trying to create a model that doesn't really make anybody lose out. So, our action, even trying based on, when we do grow big enough to employ people, we want to try and employ people from underprivileged areas of the community and things like that to create even social value and not just environmental value.
Cool. Where do you see yourself at the moment? We talk in terms of an R strategy and a K strategy. R being very short term, so you're borrowing, you're begging, you're stealing, you're borrowing, all that sort of stuff, versus, outright owning everything and having, assets as a K strategist, right? So we typically use an R strategy when we're still trying to work out how to play the game, and we try to get to a K strategy when we've worked it out and now we want to sort of be really efficient at it. So where would you see you guys at the moment?
We're kind of in between the two. So we've started, spending the last 10 months, like we personally, curbside collections, running out at all hours of the night to go collect tools when people are willing to give them to us. And we've been working out of iLab at UQ, which is a startup accelerator. And so just over the last couple of months, really getting that, I guess, the MVP out there almost. We've gotten our insurance, our plate, we started loaning tools. It's kind of a bit shuffled, and now we're wanting to convert over to really solidifying our business models and using the assets that we've built up to make it efficient and work as well as it can. It's just like we've got our users, okay, we're going to get the validation now, let's make it much more professionalized and business minded.
In terms of those users, do you sort of see them as being a sort of a relatively specialised, specific type of group of people, or is it pretty much more of a generalised take on society?
I think it's a generalized take on society. But there's obviously different groups that can be targeted for the reasons they want to use it. But even being a nonprofit and coming from a nonprofit background, the people that want to get involved are not even your normal volunteer database. We have tradies coming into us being like, I want to help you. And it's not your typical. So we realize that it is pretty general, but we can obviously break it down on how to get those different segments involved.
So when the students are thinking about this through, the bit that I'm looking for them to sort of go the extra mile on is the energy. So I'm wanting them to try and find different ways that they can connect what you guys are doing up with, in terms of your how-to statement, which we'll get to shortly, but to try and sort of create some opportunities to create new value, etc. Energy. Are there any sources of energy you think you're already tapping into? Can you sort of imagine others that you might be able to?
The biggest source of energy we're tapping into is the library model. That's our entire structure right now. We didn't really come up with it. That's been around for forever, pretty much. Some other sources of energy that we're trying to tap into are some other different sharing economy models. There is that peer-to-peer sharing that we're not sure if we want to go down that road or not, but some of those models already exist as a source of energy, as well as, I guess we've tapped into a lot of our partnerships. So tools are expensive, but there's so many tools going to landfill that we've tapped into those people that are removing those tools and just dumping them. So it's not like they're losing any profits, like 1-800-GOT-JUNK, Little Miss Organized, even down to a man and a ute, like people that just run their own removalist companies. We really tapped into that stream of they've picked stuff up, they're going to dump it anyways, and they're happy to just give us tools that we repair, clean, and test and tag ourselves. So that's another big source of energy, is we haven't paid for a single tool.
Yeah, cool. In terms of how the students can actually help you guys, what type of how-to statement do you have for us?
So what I would love from the students is I really want to look at how to develop new business models to expand from just this membership library model that can reach different market segments and create the ideal tool library experience for them while also generating us actual income.
Yeah, cool.
So, I would love like the creative ideas or things that build off of other energy that's already out there, but the biggest thing is those variety of business models that we can use.
Okay, and sort of for a final advice for the students who are going to work on this, how would you like them to give this information back to you? You want something very deadly serious straight down the line? You want it to be a bit funky? Do you want them to put some energy and life into it? Do you want to...
Energy and life and straightforward. If that's the way that they work and how they want to present it, I'm not going to say I don't want that, but whatever works best for them. But the more creative, the better.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Cool. Anna, thanks very much for sharing this with us, and we'll look forward to seeing what the students can come up with.
Thanks so much.